Hi! You might be wondering, what's this doing here? Why is this here? What is this? What does this say down here? M&S Systems. M&S stands for Music and Sound. This is a Music and Sound DMC1. And you might be thinking, well, what's that doing there? Well, that's what this video is about. So this is part one of our video series about our NM series. This is an NM series intercom here. Our NM series repair initiative. The NM series recently has been discontinued, and I believe most likely that the M&S or Music and Sound DMC series has been discontinued also. That doesn't really tell you why this is here. Well, the reason that this is here, and this is to explain, to level the field here so everyone understands, because I think it's important to have a good solid foundation as a starting point for our repair initiative, so everyone who watches these videos all starts off at the same place and everything is transparent, keyword for the day, and everyone understands what's going on. The DMC and the NM series of intercoms are actually the same. The DMC1 is a 6-wire system, that's what this one is, and there's also a DMC 3-4, and that's a 3 or 4-wire system. The NM100, which is this one, this is a 3 or 4-wire system, and then there's also the NM200, and that's a 6-wire system. See the similarities? Back in around, and all of these dates are approximate, because I looked up a little bit, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it doesn't really make that much difference. Sometime around 2004, Music and Sound, later to become M&S Systems, came out with their brand new DMC series. And they had the DMC1 to DMC 3-4. They had a 6-disc CD changer, a wide variety of remote stations and ceiling speakers and patio stations, and it was a fairly comprehensive line. They had their version of chime modules, and it was full-blown selection of intercom equipment. So they went along and they manufactured their DMC series. And one of the things you have to know is that Music and Sound Systems, while it used to be a privately owned company and they were located in Dallas, Texas, in 1986 they were sold to a company called Nortec, and Nortec bought Music and Sound Systems from the founder of the system, a fellow named, I think it was Jim Lemon, and that was back in 1986. And so they had manufactured intercom systems for a long time. The company started in 1953, and they were always sort of a competitor of NuTone. NuTone, in the world of intercoms, I think, was always a somewhat bigger company and had more presence than Music and Sound did, but they were competitors, and it was always back and forth about who had the better systems. You know, one company would come out with their new models, and then 3 years later the other company would come out with their new models and take the lead, and then they would come out with a new one, and it went back and forth for a long time. So in 1986, Nortec bought Music and Sound Systems, and they continued to manufacture intercoms, and in 2004 roughly they came out with the DMC series, and that was their new models. It replaced their earlier MC series that they made, which replaced the even earlier N series. So things went along, and this is what they had. It had a very futuristic look at the time, had the backlit LCD display. It was a very revolutionary looking system. Around the same time that Nortec, or Music and Sound's M&S Systems, came out with the DMC series, they apparently were on somewhat of a spending spree, and Nortec, through another company that they already owned, Brown, which is headquartered in Wisconsin, they bought NuTone. And at that time, NuTone was in the midst, let's say it was 2003, they were in the middle of their IM 3303, the IMA 4406 had just come out or was just about to come out. We had the IM 5006 and all the other traditional NuTone intercom systems. That went along normally as it would, and sometime around 2000, at the end of 2008 or in 2009, those models were discontinued. The IMA 3303 and the IMA 4406 were discontinued. The IM 5006 had been discontinued for a while, and then we fast forward a little bit to around 2010, roughly, and we hadn't had any new intercom systems for a while. We were all kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. And what they came out with was the NM series. And the NM series is a reconfigured or rebadged or rebranded DMC series. So the NM200 is equal to a DMC1, and the NM100 is equivalent to a DMC 3-4. They have different styling. That's really the only real difference between them. This is more, I don't know, futuristic, cutting edge, little more edgy looking, people thought. Not really the traditional NuTone sort of look. M&S Systems or Music and Sound Systems, they traditionally had metal grills over the speakers and had wider range of color selections and things like that NuTone didn't do. So, you know, it's all product branding and all that kind of stuff. And they felt that this, just to put the NuTone name and make it the same, that wouldn't really work. So they changed the appearance. They came up with a more traditional NuTone looking faceplate. They changed the button arrangement somewhat, had some different colors, but pretty much for product line to product line, same equipment was available. It was all very straightforward. Production on these models, the DMC series, which came out in 2004 and is most likely discontinued now, lasted 14 years, which is quite a long time for any series of intercom designs. And then the NM series came out in, let's say, approximately 2011. So it was just recently discontinued. That was like 4 days ago we found out about that. And so that lasted about 7 years. During the last 5 years or so, for both of these product lines, the available equipment shrank and shrank and shrank and shrank. Gone were the 6-disc CD changers, gone were the ceiling speakers with the wall remotes, all of the better quality accessory items were gone, and pretty much what you were down to is small inside remote stations, front door speakers, single patio station choice, chime modules. That's about all you had. Pretty much bare bones as it was. So you still might be wondering, why is this here? Well, this is here because this is, I don't know, the cousin model to this. What's behind the faceplate, the circuit boards, and all of that, they're identical. If this were an NM200, they would be identical. The circuit boards between the 3- and 4-wire systems and the 6-wire systems are somewhat different. There are some differences in there, but fundamentally, they're very similar. And so every one of these is equal to every one of these. If we're going to learn how to repair these, which is the point of these videos, and it's the new thing we're working on at the shop, if we can fix these, that means by default, we'll be able to fix these also. And that's actually a good thing. There will be many challenges with this. These are unusual designs, and one of the things that makes it challenging for us is that there is no real factory support for this project. There are no service manuals. There are no schematics. There are no replacement circuit boards available. There is basically no support whatsoever. It's all up to us to figure out how they work, how they're made, what goes wrong, and have the skills to actually fix them. What I've been doing over the last 8 or 9 months is I've been collecting up as many used DMC models as I can, and whatever amount of used NM series that I can, although there aren't a lot of these in the world yet. This one, this DMC1, this is actually a really early one. It's from approximately 2004, so it would be the first year that had been introduced. And supposedly it works, but I haven't actually tried it yet. And it's got a problem with the display here, obviously. When you're learning how to fix things, especially when you don't have any technical information to help you do it, you have to start from scratch. And when we say from scratch, we mean that's really from scratch. We're actually building our own service manual to do this. And we started on this more seriously within the last month, and we're moving along with it nicely. But when you're starting from scratch, you need broken things to see what goes wrong, and you need them to practice on so you can figure out how to actually fix them. And that's what this series of videos is going to be about. Some of the things that we've learned about so far that seems to be are common problems with both of these models are things like the backlight on the LCD display tend to fail. That's a fairly common problem. That's been an ongoing problem with the NM series since it came out. And I've done a video about that, and we actually have gotten fairly good at, we figured out why that happens, and we figured out how to fix it. The other problem, which seems to be fairly common, is that these sets have AM/FM tuner problems. And I actually spoke with somebody who has probably more real-world experience with the DMC series than anyone I could find. And he said, yeah, that's been a problem since the beginning. And one of the things I've noticed is in taking sets apart, there's a lot of different variations on the AM/FM tuner design, because I think they were trying to solve problems with it and make it more reliable and so forth. So I expect, as with all intercoms and all modern electronics, there will be a lot of small and sometimes not so small changes between the very earliest ones and the very last ones that they made, because manufacturing changes, components change, basic designs change to solve problems and so forth, and we'll have to document that as we go along. The other thing that will be challenging is we need to acquire a variety of equipment that makes up the rest of these systems. We need speaker cones and switchboards, and because you have to be able to not only fix the master stations, but you have to be able to deal with remote speakers and remote stations and those kind of things too, because that's an integral part of the system in someone's home. And if you can't fix the remote speakers, then what's the point of having a master station that works? So this is a long process. To give everyone some encouragement around here, and with all you folks who might be watching this is not the first time we've done this. Unfortunately, if you go backwards in time for NuTone, there is no service manual for an IM3303 or an IMA 3303. There is no service manual for an IM or IMA 4406. They never actually made them. The company was in transition at that time, and the new ownership, I suppose, didn't want to spend the money it takes to create a comprehensive service manual. So the only thing that we had to start with for either of those two models was we had a partial schematic for the 3303, and we had some very early schematic drawings for most of the 4406, not the entire master station. There is one board that's missing, and anyone who's been here for any length of time knows there was a day when there was a lot of head scratching and pounding your head on the wall trying to figure out what went wrong with a 4406 so we would be able to fix it. And in those days, in the early days of fixing 4406s, it would not be uncommon to have one technician work on one 4406 all day and still not have it solved. It was a very time-consuming process to learn. Nowadays, we can turn around 4406s just as quickly as we can an IM3003, which is by far one of the easiest intercoms that there is to fix. The other upside to learning how to repair these is I always like a challenge. I like to learn new things. I find it interesting and exciting to do. And also, because of the way these units are constructed, it means I get to buy some new fancy bench equipment. Things that we need that we don't have now because we don't have a need for it. So in the coming weeks, there'll be videos about some new equipment that will be coming in that we're going to set up. We're going to try to make a dedicated work spot or work center to work on these units so we can leave it set up all the time. So there's some new and exciting things coming along, and that always makes it more fun. The goal here is by the end of all of this series of videos, and I don't know how many it's going to be, but by the end of the series of videos, and I would suspect sometime over the course of this year, we want to get to the point that we can have a customer call us and say, I have a NuTone NM200 and I had it put in my house sometime in 2012 and I can't get FM radio anymore and the volume's really low and I need to get it fixed. And we can say, well, certainly, sir, these are most likely the problems. It's probably this and this and this. And if you send it to me, we can repair it for you. And we want the repairs of the NM series, and I guess probably ultimately the DMC series also, because they're the same. We want it to become as simple and straightforward and an everyday repair, just like when people call me and say, I have an IM3003 from 1986 and I've got low volume. So as a short recap, DMC by M&S Systems, equal, same, what's behind the face as an NM series from NuTone. They're the same models. There's probably variations between the earliest ones and the last ones, but that's normal for all electronic equipment. There's always variations and things that change over time, and the more and more of them that we work on, the more and more we'll become familiar with where the cutoff dates are and when things changed and when they solve some problem and this is this and that is that and so forth. So that just makes the whole adventure that much more exciting. So this is part one of our NM series repair initiative video. I hope you found this interesting, and in the future perhaps it'll be helpful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up on YouTube, because we need all the encouragement we can get here. We're going to work really, really hard on this to try to be able to repair these things for you when you have a problem. If you like our videos, there'll be a banner right here. Please subscribe to our channel. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell or on the wheel, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. Watch for part two when we go down the rabbit hole of what it takes to set up and build a service manual to work on these models. See ya.